The hostility between Iran and Israel did not begin overnight. For decades, these two nations have been locked in one of the most dangerous and complex rivalries in modern geopolitical history. To understand why the Middle East is burning today, you have to go back to 1979, the year everything changed. Before 1979, Iran and Israel actually had a working relationship. Iran, under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, maintained quiet diplomatic and intelligence ties with Israel. Both were aligned with the United States during the Cold War, and both saw common enemies in Soviet influence and Arab nationalism. Then came the Iranian Islamic Revolution. Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah, declared Iran an Islamic Republic, and immediately repositioned the country as a fierce opponent of Israel. The new Iranian government called Israel an illegitimate state, refused to recognize its existence, and declared support for Palestinian liberation as a core pillar of Iranian foreign policy. From that moment forward, Iran and Israel were on a collision course. Iran understood early that a direct military confrontation with Israel, a nuclear-capable state backed by the United States, was not a winnable fight. So instead of fighting Israel directly, Iran built what military analysts call the Axis of Resistance, a network of armed proxy groups spread across the Middle East, each positioned to pressure Israel and American interests from multiple directions simultaneously. Hezbollah in Lebanon became Iran's most powerful proxy. Founded in the early 1980s with direct Iranian support, Hezbollah grew into one of the most heavily armed non-state military forces in the world, possessing an estimated 150,000 rockets and missiles pointed at Israel from southern Lebanon. Iran funds, trains, and arms Hezbollah directly, and the group has fought multiple wars with Israel over the decades. In Gaza, Iran developed relationships with Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, providing funding and weapons to groups committed to Israel's destruction. In Yemen, the Houthi movement receives Iranian support and has launched repeated drone and missile attacks at Israel and commercial shipping in the Red Sea. In Iraq and Syria, Iran-backed militias operate with significant freedom, positioning forces close to Israeli borders and American military bases. This network, Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, is what analysts mean when they talk about the entire Middle East being under pressure. Iran essentially created a ring of armed groups surrounding Israel, capable of opening multiple fronts simultaneously. At the center of everything is Iran's nuclear program. Israel regards a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat, not merely a strategic problem, but a matter of national survival. Iranian leaders have repeatedly made statements calling for the elimination of the Israeli state, and Israeli officials argue that allowing such a regime to develop nuclear weapons would be catastrophic, not just for Israel, but for the entire region. Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful civilian energy purposes. The United States, Israel, and most Western governments have long believed otherwise, pointing to uranium enrichment levels that go far beyond what civilian nuclear power requires. As of recent reports, Iran has enriched uranium to 60% purity, significantly below weapons-grade level of 90%, but far above the 3 to 5% needed for civilian reactors, raising serious alarm in Western and Israeli intelligence circles. Israel has conducted multiple covert operations against Iran's nuclear program over the years, assassinating Iranian nuclear scientists, deploying the Stuxnet computer virus to sabotage Iranian centrifuges, and conducting airstrikes against Iranian nuclear-linked facilities in Syria. Iran has responded with cyber attacks, proxy attacks, and direct missile strikes. The current escalation began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched the deadliest attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust, killing approximately 1,200 Israelis and taking around 250 hostages into Gaza. Israel's military response in Gaza was swift and devastating, triggering a humanitarian crisis of enormous scale and drawing international condemnation.
As Israel fought in Gaza, Hezbollah began firing rockets and drones into northern Israel almost daily, forcing the evacuation of tens of thousands of Israeli civilians from border communities. The Houthis in Yemen began launching drones and missiles toward Israel and attacking international shipping lanes in the Red Sea, disrupting global trade routes and drawing American and British military responses. Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria attacked American military bases over 150 times in the months following October 7th, killing American soldiers and forcing the United States to conduct retaliatory strikes inside Iraq and Syria. Then, in April 2024, in an unprecedented escalation, Iran launched a direct attack on Israeli soil for the first time in history, firing over 300 drones and missiles at Israel. Israel, with the help of the United States, United Kingdom, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, intercepted the vast majority of projectiles. Israel then conducted a retaliatory strike inside Iran. For the first time in decades-long shadow war between these two nations, they had struck each other directly. The reason the entire Middle East feels like it is under attack comes down to interconnected pressures pulling multiple countries into the same conflict simultaneously. Lebanon is being devastated by the Israel-Hezbollah war, with Israeli operations having killed Hezbollah's top leadership, including its longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah in late 2024. Yemen is being struck by American and British forces in response to Houthi attacks on shipping lanes. Syria remains a battleground for Israeli airstrikes targeting Iranian weapons shipments. Iraq is caught between American forces and Iranian-backed militias operating on its soil. Every country in the region is feeling the tremors of a conflict that has its roots in the fundamental question of whether Israel has the right to exist and whether Iran has the right to develop nuclear weapons, two questions that neither side is willing to compromise on. The situation remains deeply unstable. Israel has significantly degraded Hezbollah's military leadership and capabilities, but has not eliminated the threat. Gaza continues to experience devastating conflict with no clear political resolution in sight. Iran has suffered significant setbacks, losing key proxy leaders and facing internal economic pressure from sanctions, but has not abandoned its strategic goals. The nuclear program continues to advance. The United States continues to support Israel's right to defend itself while urging restraint. Arab nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, despite their public positions, share Israel's concern about Iranian regional dominance and quietly cooperated with Israeli defense during the April 2024 missile attack. Russia and China have largely sided with Iran diplomatically, adding a global power dimension to what is already an extraordinarily complex regional conflict.